Maybe it's the way the brilliant gold liquid reflects our sunshine, or how the bright blue of its label mirrors the clear Caribbean skies overhead. Maybe it's the fresh, crisp taste of this beastly cold beer on a scorching hot day. Maybe it's even the way it brings us all together. But one thing is for sure, Carib is very much a part of who we are wherever we're from in the Caribbean. Carib. It's the way we play. Drink responsibly.
TDC for service, TDC for quality. TDC your company, TDC for service, TDC for quality.
TDC your company.
Together we succeed, building our strong community, pressing onward to our destiny. One love, one family. Together we succeed. Let the whole world see. Yes, this is 50. People make the world go
Good morning, St. Kitts and Nevis, and welcome to Inside the News right here on WINFM 98.9. I'm your host for today, Devon Cornelius. It is April 8, 2023. It's a beautiful Saturday morning here in Sugar City, St. Kitts. Thank you so much for joining today's edition of Inside the News. You can catch this program also on our social media platforms. Check us out on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, as well as our YouTube channel at WINNMedia SKN. And of course, for the latest in what's happening in St. Kitts and Nevis across the Caribbean region and internationally, visit www.winmediaskn.com. This is Inside the News for Saturday, April 8th, 2023. I'm your host for today, Devon Cornelius. And thank you guys so much for joining the program. The numbers to call later on in the program are 466-0989 or 662-0989. That's 466-0989 or 662-0989. Thank you so much for tuning in and joining the program for today. All right, so this week, the Prime Minister and Minister of Finance, Dr. Terence Drew, announced the official rollout of a graduate finance project. And this project essentially is geared towards people who are interested in pursuing higher education, tertiary education. And the project was launched, or is being launched, at the Development Bank of St. Kitts and Nevis. And so it gives citizens and residents of St. Kitts and Nevis the opportunity to access funding for their education. According to the information I have here, the student loans are now at an interest rate of 5%, a 5% interest rate, and the interest it's interest free for the first 4 years and 3 months. You can borrow up to $100,000 up to 15 years repayment term. This is geared towards young people who are interested in pursuing higher education. You know how costly that is, and instead of paying interest at 6% or at 9%, you pay only 5%, and you begin to pay after the first 4 years and 3 months. So no longer you have that burden of figuring out how you are going to pay your interest while you're in school up until 4 years. It is free for the first 4 years and 3 months. I'll play the clip, the audio clip with the Prime Minister giving the specifics and details of this project that was launched. I'll play that for you right now.
Greetings all. It brings me immense pleasure to announce the official rollout of the Graduate Finance Project. During the 2022 election campaign, the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party pledged to ensure that meaningful change and development is fostered in education within the Federation. As of today, Thursday, 6 April 2023, the interest rate on student loans accessed through the Development Bank of St. Kitts and Nevis for new students has been reduced to 5% per annum. The intention is to ensure that graduates can live and plan for better lives. The Graduate Finance Project offers 5% interest on a maximum of EC $100,000 for a grace period of 4.25 years with a 15-year repayment term. It also includes an EC $15,000 credit to service the student loan during that period, which eliminates the payment of interest for 4 years, 3 months. A lower interest rate reduces the lifetime cost of college. Under this new policy, students will now save up to EC $50,000 or more. Typically, students return from their studies to high interest rates and terms that delay important life events such as building their own homes or purchasing a vehicle, and so choose to remain at home with their parents to help ease the financial strain they have acquired. It can be challenging for someone to handle both a mortgage repayment and a student loan payment. Having the debt can also make it hard to qualify for a mortgage in the first place. Home ownership is one of the largest builders of wealth, so delaying the purchase of a home can have a major effect on a student borrower's ability to increase his or her wealth. The reduction of the student loan interest rate to 5%, in addition to the credit offer, will ease the student finance complex. We understand the financial strain that resulted from the COVID-19 pandemic, and therefore, it is our aim to ensure that students who desire to pursue higher education receive the necessary financial support they require. Education is the key to a progressive and successful nation. It is indeed a new day and a better way for students with this new graduate finance future. Thank you.
All right, that was Prime Minister of St. Kitts and Nevis and Minister of Finance, the Honorable Dr. Terence Drew, speaking on the Graduate Finance Project, which was launched under the theme Removing Financial Barriers to Education, and this was launched at the Development Bank of St. Kitts and Nevis. You borrow up to $100,000 EC, up to 15 years repayment term at interest rate 5%. Now, previously, the Prime Minister shared that the interest rates on student loans accessed through the Development Bank would be reduced to 5% per annum for students undertaking tertiary education and those who desire to pursue higher studies. As he said, as of April 6th, the interest rate on student loans accessed through the Development Bank for new students has been reduced to 5% per annum. The intention is to ensure that graduates can live and plan for better lives. The Graduate Finance Project offers 5% interest on a maximum of $100,000 EC for a grace period of 4.25 years with a 15-year repayment term. It also includes an EC $15,000 credit to service the student loan during that period, which eliminates the payment of interest for the 4 years. Under this new policy, students will now save up to $50,000 EC or more. With reduced rates, the Prime Minister hopes there will be some flexibility in graduates' ability to create wealth without the burden of long-standing and hefty student loans. He said typically students return from their studies with high interest rates and terms that delay important life events such as building their own homes or purchasing a vehicle, and so choose to remain at home with their parents to help ease the financial strain. It can be challenging for some to handle both a mortgage payment and a student loan payment. Having the debt can also make it hard to qualify for a mortgage in the first place. Home ownership is one of the largest areas of wealth, so delaying the purchase of a home has a major effect on a student borrower's ability to increase his or her wealth. reduction of the student loan interest rate to 5% in addition to the credit offer will ease the students' financial commitments. Dr. Drew ended his address by emphasizing the importance of education as a driver for progressive social and economic growth. Again, this program was launched under the theme refinancing. Hold on, I lost it there for a second. The project was launched under the theme removing financial barriers to education, the Graduate Financer Project. Student loans are now available 5% interest, $100,000 to finance your education, and up to 15 years repayment. As said here by the Prime Minister in his address, it's a challenge, you having to pay your student loan and still trying to qualify for a mortgage, and maybe you want to buy a vehicle and you're not making enough money to pay a student loan, to pay a mortgage, to pay for a car, and still, the other financial commitments and other life commitments that you may have. And so with the launch of this initiative, this project, it is aimed at allowing people who have graduated from or who intend to graduate from university to be able to own a home or qualify for a mortgage. We'll take a break to give a shout out to our sponsors, and when we come back, we'll open up the phone lines to hear from you, your thoughts on the launch of this project. The numbers to call are 466-0989 or 662-0989. So we'll take a break and we will be right back. Stick and stay.
Maybe it's the way the brilliant gold liquid reflects our sunshine, or how the bright blue of its label mirrors the clear Caribbean skies overhead. Maybe it's the fresh, crisp taste of this beastly cold beer on a scorching hot day. Maybe it's even the way it brings us all together. But one thing is for sure, Carib is very much a part of who we are wherever we're from in the Caribbean. Carib, it's the way we play. Drink responsibly.
People make the world go round.
Maybe it's the way the brilliant gold liquid reflects our sunshine, or how the bright blue of its label mirrors the clear Caribbean skies overhead. Maybe it's the fresh, crisp taste of this beastly cold beer on a scorching hot day. Maybe it's even the way it brings us all together. But one thing is for sure, Carib is very much a part of who we are wherever we're from in the Caribbean. Carib, it's the way we play. Drink responsibly.
If you need protection, you need one who you can trust. To secure your investment, you need one who'll do you just. TDC Insurance, you're the one that you can trust. TDC Insurance, you're always safe with us.
TDC Insurance is your go-to insurance company for all your insurance needs. We take pride in offering you the best solutions and ensuring our customers are fully satisfied. TDC Insurance, we take good care of you, guaranteeing you peace of mind.
You're always safe with us.
People make the world go round.
Welcome back to the program right here on 98.9. They said to the phone lines, and we will take this call. The caller, good morning. You are on the air.
Hey, good morning, Deborah, and happy Easter.
Same to you, same to you.
Good morning to all your listeners at home and abroad. I want to give God thanks for Jesus and what he did for us. Easter means hope and renewal. So if you feel depressed, Easter is coming. Now, I listened to that announcement by the Prime Minister. There are some good parts in it, but there are some other questionable parts. Let me start with the good part first. I don't know if you know, but one of my daughters went to UWI in 93, and they did not have to pay interest until they came back. Now, when they started instituting that you have to, while the student away, the parents also have to pay. That's a burden, eh? Because you sometimes have to still maintain the student while they're abroad.
Right.
So that to me is the good part. What beats me, however, I think some calculation need to be done. Now, 100,000 is less than 35,000 US, eh?
Yes.
You're aware of that, right?
Yes, I am.
30,081, and then 10. So I have been calculating 15 years. Now that seemed extra long to me. I was doing some calculation. He said you save 15,000, right?
You know,
24 years?
you'll save 50,000. It says students will now save
No, I mean for the interest in the grace period. He said you would save 15.
No, it says, so you have a 15-year repayment term, and then it
Yes.
says here that you will get a $15,000 credit.
Right, that's what I'm talking
Oh,
about,
okay.
the 15,000.
Okay, yes.
For 4 years. I mean, 4 into that. You know, you could do your 4 into it and see. Now, what I would advise students, because 15,000 at 5% is not cheap, you know. They used to give 10, right? They now stretch it to 15. Well, when will you finish paying to get these other mortgages? And another thing I don't like, the new one. Now, if you just came from UWI this year, from studying abroad, right? Why you didn't say from 2020? Or give some reduction on all the other students.
Well, that
By
was
10%.
that was a concern by some people. Perhaps they should.
Yeah, can
go
you make
back.
no sense?
Yeah.
I come home this year and I got to pay the 10 or the 11%. And you just going in at 5? 2020 is Corona. You see what I'm talking about? That's not fair. You come home in all, some of them ain't even get a job yet. I think the grace period is fair enough because it takes some of the strain. Because some parents have to go and take a loan to be paying the interest. Because remember, you know, the principal ain't touch yet, eh? If you know the accounts, right? They try to collect the majority of your payments is going to be on the interest, and the principal start after. So I said to myself, and then it was if you work in the government. You get in this low pay, and you stretch to 15 years. So when are they going to get this house? When you going to get a house? So that they need some going back to the drawing board. It cannot be right to just give it from people who's been leaving this year. Between this year and last year and the year before. You see any problem with what I say?
Well, I follow where you're coming from. As I said, there are some people who are raising concerns about that. They believe it should go back to at least last year or maybe cater to some
2020, you know, God, that's when the corona and all of these things.
other graduates, especially those who were affected by COVID. I can understand.
That's what I'm
that.
saying. Some of them ain't even get a job yet. After they get a job, they barely could cover the interest rate. So why not give them the same rate?
But well, according to my calculation, the $100,000 EC is about 37,000 US.
That's what I'm telling you. Here, not much.
Okay.
Because university thing is expensive, even though you go UE. You know? So I think you need to take a look at that again and give an idea of the total. Just like if you get an NHC house and you're paying something and they give you 30 years. At the end of the 30 years, the house is worth $250,000. So I want to know at the end of the 15 years, how much would the student have paid compared to what the rate they had before for 10 years? 15 is long in the thing about a young person, you know.
Well, it says up to 15 years, so you don't have to take the full 15 years. I guess it depends
That's
on how
what I
much.
was suggesting to some of them. Pay as much as you can, because the more you pay, or even though I think, and if I'm not mistaken, they add on the interest to the principal. I don't think they give reduction, but at least if you could pay more, pay more. Because 15 years to me is very long.
Right, and I'm saying you don't have to take the full 15 years. Remember, it says up to 15 years. So you pay what you can manage.
That's what yeah, some people just say, 15, I'm going to take 15. When you're going to buy this car and the house, because the commercial banks don't make joke, you know. And the house and the car are getting more expensive. To me, well, I understand with the development bank that development bank borrows the money it lends. You know that, right? Some people don't know. The development bank is not a commercial bank. They don't take deposits. They borrow from the government or CDB or other agencies or other banks. So I understand the 5%. But I don't know. With that, there needs some more calculation. Let the young person know, look, at the end of the 15 years, so some of them who go either way like to play around and don't want to pass, you got 15 years around your neck. And choose carefully. So that is my first thing. I'll come back. But think about it, Mr. Prime Minister. It is unreasonable and discriminating, if you want to use a stronger word. Please go back at least to 2020. All right then,
Carla. Thank you so much for your contribution to this program. It is 11:33 here in the studios of 1FM 98.9, and you're tuned into Inside the News for April 8th, 2023. I'm Devon Cornelius. Thank you so much for joining the program. We're on the topic of the launch of the Graduate Finance Project launched by the government of St. Kitts and Nevis, with the Development Bank of St. Kitts and Nevis. It was launched under the theme Removing Financial Barriers to Education, a 5% interest rate, interest-free for the first 4 years and 3 months, and you borrow up to $100,000 and up to 15 years repayment terms. Of course, for more information, visit the Development Bank of St. Kitts and Nevis, where you can get all the details. As noted by the caller there, some people have been asking if it would apply to previous graduates. And so maybe if you graduated in 2021, 2020, or as suggested by the caller, when COVID started, especially for those students who have student loans and were unable to pay their loans, service their loans because of COVID, they maybe lost their jobs, and so the income was not steady. People are calling for, the initiative to be extended to them as well. So not just as far as back as 2020, but maybe you can target those students who were paying on time and missed because they lost their jobs because of COVID. Let's head back to the phone lines and we will take some more calls. Caller, good morning. You are on the air.
Yes, good morning and a blessed day to all. I was just listening to a little bit of the discussion regarding this facility that has been offered to the students.
Yes.
I think it is quite good that now we are able to make it more reasonable for students to do higher studies. Just let me just on the question of 15 years or however long the period is. It's always better to have a longer period in terms of the repayments because they have to calculate how much you have to pay per month over that period. And so when it's longer, you pay less per month,
Yes.
meaning you make it more manageable for the person to pay. But as I think you rightly said, you don't have to wait that long. You pay back as much as you can, particularly if it's on a reducing balance. You pay back as much as you can so that in the end you pay it off earlier. But you have the luxury, I don't want to use the word luxury, you have the facility of being able to pay over a longer period so that your monthly repayments are lower. Usually, as the time progresses, you're earning a little bit more, you can pay more. But at least to start off with, you have a reasonable amount to pay.
Right.
In terms of going backwards, the Prime Minister did a very interesting thing the other day in the press release. The Prime Minister's, what you call it, not press release, the Prime Minister's
Press conference.
Press conference. He explained why we have the difficulty we have. You can only spend so much if you want it to be sustainable. Otherwise, you will spend more than you have, and you'll run into a deficit. And he pointed out, the IMF has put it in its report as well, that the kind of money that the government has been spending for various things is such that it's not sustainable. You have to draw it back. And then, therefore, you have to look at the priority areas because everybody will say everything is a priority, but everything cannot be a priority if you want to manage it properly. So similarly with this something went wrong there. And I think it's starting off first with those who are going to, going forward, because you don't want to stop anybody from going. So you start with those persons in terms of the facility you're offering the 5%. And then they have to look at the other part. And we say this because National Bank has run into a problem. Sometimes we want to expand and say we want to do this and do that, but we don't manage it properly. National Bank ran into a problem where it had so much money outside and then end up with a deficit, a loss of $250 million. Then couldn't pay its, investors, its shareholders. First time in all the 50 or however many years, 60 years that the National Bank has been in operation, could not pay its thing. And now we have heard that it now, its request or its quest to purchase the First Caribbean Bank has been terminated. The central bank said, no, you can't do that. And I could understand that. If you run this big deficit and can't pay your current shareholders, what are you getting into this other business for? So all of these things, there's a ripple effect. And I think government has to go through things in a prudent way. If it can consider some kind of concession for those who have already had the loan, well, that's good. But it has to be prudent in how it goes forward. Thank you.
All right, caller, thank you so much for your contribution to this program. You're listening to Inside the News right here on WINNFM 98.9 for Saturday, April 8, 2023. I'm Devon Cornelius. Thank you so much for your contribution. Let's head back to the phone lines and we will take some more calls. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Yeah, good morning again, Devon. Thank God for some rain. Some rain is coming now. By the way, did you all have hail in Nevis?
Well, I didn't experience any. I don't think so.
Because I heard on another station they were saying hail was in Nevis, St. Kitts. I think Antigua had some. Now, though, the last caller made some excuses, because the excuses, they are nothing but excuses. If you invest in the stock market overseas and the stock share plunges, you make losses, Isn't that so?
Mm-hmm.
Are you following me?
Yeah, I am.
The big central bank had lost millions on the same thing. Because you're looking for a place to invest. The stocks you buy may look good. Just like how some people in the California bank, the stocks were looking good. And then they plunge. So it is not somebody went into National Bank and took out the money and this bad management. When you are investing, you are taking a risk. That is the reason why our money changed from the pound sterling to the U.S. we lost 33% of the value of our money. We have not heard how much the central bank lost. So to suggest it was bad management, maybe in terms of the risk they took. As long as you are investing on any stock market, because just like us, government shares or government bonds, as you know, supposed to be the most secure bonds, the less or the low risk, is not so?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, what happened here when people invested in the treasury bonds in St. Kitts and lost half of the value? Is a risk. So you're going to say, well, the people made a bad management. So to attribute it, I hear the kind of sly and the remarks them. They went to the thing, what caused the loss? In 2009 or whatever, that same bank lost $64 million. You hear me? The loss, I think it was 47 on the bonds and the shares, and so they had. I mean, we must know the truth and talk the truth. Under this, when we went to the IMF, the first thing the IMF says, all the debt, they must be renegotiated. And National Bank and Social Security took the biggest hit. Social Security lost $30 million. We invested in Beacon Heights, I think it's 89. What have we gained? We got to talk the truth, you know. But we speak what we know. I don't attribute anything to her, but she knows better. The same thing with Development Bank. Now, listen again, another thing in National Bank, all the commercial banks, they were asked to give a moratorium on the mortgages. Isn't that so?
That was, when was that?
During the COVID.
All right.
I think it's twice. Twice, you know. The commercial banks were asked to reduce all our people since some of them weren't working and so. All of these things enter into the book. That is the same thing happened to the Development Bank. If you give them 6 months, and then the next 6 months, that's a year, you know. We must put things in a proper perspective while we're trying to make the thing look good. It's a good effort. They're not denying us good effort, because at least the parents don't have to go and find the interest to pay while the students go. But to attribute it to poor management, I don't know about that. And as I heard you ask either you or one of the journalists asked the Prime Minister, where is the report?
All right, then.
Because the suggestion is that somebody stole it, somebody took it.
All right.
Why are there no charges?
All right, caller. We want to take some more calls. All right. Thank you so much for your contribution to this program. This is Inside the News on Saturday, April 8, 2023. I'm your host for today, Devon Cornelius. The phone lines are open and we're taking your calls. Let's head to the phone lines and we'll take this call. Caller, you are on the air. Good morning.
Yes, good morning. I don't want to go back and forth, but I just want to explain a few things. One, when you make mistakes in the past, that is exactly what you try to avoid in the future. It's not a question of just, you made a mistake, you can make it again. And that is why I would say the Prime Minister and his team, they are going about it in a prudent manner. You do not want to repeat what was made in the past, the mistake. The second point, though, with respect to National Bank, and this is public information because it was said at their last AGM. One of the things about how it was operating is that a high percentage, usually banks have a certain ratio of their loans to deposits. It could be up to 60% or even more. But there's a thing. So your local people benefit from the funds that they have in the bank. But the National Bank actually had a small percentage, I think it was about 30% of their deposits backed, in terms of the loans to their deposits locally. And a lot of that, you could say, investment, so to speak, was overseas. So it had very high exposure. And a quite respected finance person made a specific point at their last AGM that you had this very large percentage, and of course the financial records are there to show it. So the exposure was very high. And so when the markets overseas went south, as I would say, it affected disproportionately in terms of our investments here. And so we had this big hit. So it's not just a question, and yes, anybody who would have had anything outside would have been hit, but it is because of the disproportionate amount that the bank had in terms of its external exposure. And so that is now being sorted out and tightened up gradually. So all of these things have to be worked on because it can't be worked on overnight. And again, as I said, you can't just say it was done in the past, so you don't speak about it in the future. No, it was done in the past, and you had some negative effects. You try to be more prudent in the future. And I believe we are on a better path now. Thank you.
All right, Carla, thank you so much for your contribution to this program. We'll take a break to give a shout out to our sponsors, and when we come back, we'll continue Inside the News right here on 98.9. Let's take this break, and we will be right back.
Found the sound 98.9 FM.
Maybe it's the way the brilliant gold liquid reflects or sunshine, or how the bright blue of its label mirrors the clear Caribbean skies overhead. Maybe it's the fresh, crisp taste of this beastly cold beer on a scorching hot day. Maybe it's even the way it brings us all together. But one thing is for sure, Carib is very much a part of who we are wherever we're from in the Caribbean. Carib, it's the way we play. Drink responsibly.
Breathe easy. With the holidays just over and lots of fun spent on holiday supplies, activities and gifts, how are your finances? If your answer wasn't favorable, TDC Financial Services is here to help you breathe easy. Up to $40,000 unsecured to consolidate your loans and even get a little something in your hand. No need to worry. Visit our social media pages or call 465-6516 or 469-5430 to learn more on how you can breathe easy with TDC Financial Services Limited. Terms and conditions apply.
Please note that the TDC Financial Services Company Limited, St. Kitts branch, is now located on Central Street in Bastyr, opposite the Norwich Holiness Church.
People make the world go
Welcome back to the program. Caller, you are on the air. Good morning.
Yes, good morning again. Just education, right? Now, when we went to the IMF, 70% of the national debt was domestic. It was at 70%, of which the National Bank carried the burden. I am not too sure about how this thing is the first time, Well, sorry, I have to get somebody to check the data for me, because I do get the booklets. How would they have paid? I know what I discovered when they were reporting, because I brought it up to with Dr. Douglas. They were paying, we didn't realize they were paying interest on the National Bank debt. So I'm not too sure how could National Bank would have been paying when they almost went bankrupt. There was a fear of the OECS indigenous bank going down with the heavy load. It's in the IMF report, you know. I don't know, talk out of my head. And if you have all of this money, because another thing with this CBI money, because I read the reports, you had this lot of money coming into the country, right? Going into National Bank, and they were unable to lend it, because how you going to lend all this money and you have COVID? You see what I'm talking about? Massive amount of money was coming in, and the bank was unable to invest it locally. Therefore, they had to go abroad. Now, I would say, if they were not secure, I want a better word, of the type of investment they were doing, then I would say that would be an error on their part. Some are more risky. But to suggest, I mean, even Social Security, that's why they have less interest, less dividends that they get. So in a little easy excuse, I doubt it. I will have to hear the data. Tell me which year, between 2009 to 2013 or 14 or even 15, when the bank paid dividends.
All right,
I
then,
want the
caller.
answer.
All right, caller, thank you so much for your contribution to this program. This is Inside the News right here on Win FM 98.9. I'm your host for today, Devon Cornelius. The phone lines are open, and we are taking your calls at 466-0989 or 662-0989. That's 466-0989 or 662-0989. Let's head back to the phone lines, and we'll be taking some more calls. Hello, caller. You are on the air. Good morning.
Greetings. Give thanks for taking our call and give thanks for the information flowed so far. You know, we are listening to this money talk, economics, and we're not far from the head, right, you know. And you know why not we head concerning the money thing. Most of the money that we are amassing is coming from the CBI program. Most say, not true.
Repeat that question, caller. Sorry.
The monies that we are, the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis are amassing is coming from the CBI program. Not true.
Well, most of the caller. Okay, we seem to have lost that caller. If I could rephrase your question, you're asking if most of the money that we use for our projects, if it comes from the CBI, then I would say yes. Oftentimes, when you hear of different projects going on, somewhere in that press release or information sharing out, it will say this is funded by this bank, that bank, and then CBI. So, and yeah, most of the projects and most of the initiatives are funded through the CBI. We recently had the dividends being paid from Social Security. That was funded by the CBI dividends and all of that. So yes, CBI significantly contributes to the economic growth of the country. We will break at 12 for the headline news, and when we come back, we'll continue the conversation right here on 98.9. I have some news that I want to share with you before we break for the headline news. And this is news. I just received the press release from the Royal St. Christopher and Nevis Police Force. It says police charge Stapleton Village resident for murder. On Thursday, April 6, 2023, police formally arrested and charged this name Shakamalaj. Forgive me, I can't pronounce this name. Skamalj Dickinson. So let me say Kamalj Dickinson of Stapleton Village for the murder of Shaquille Walters of the same address. The offense took place on April 4, 2023 at Stapleton Village. Dickinson was taken before a magistrate and was remanded to his Majesty's prison. That is according to a press release from the Royal St. Christopher and Nevis Police Force issued moments ago. So they've formally charged Dickinson of Stapleton Village for the murder of Shaquille Walters, who is also of Stapleton Village, and the offense took place on April 4th. I think the murder count for the year is at about 9. I stand to be corrected, but we've had about 9 murders for 2023. We'll now break for the headline news, and when we come back, we'll continue the conversation right here on 98.9. Thank you so much for joining the program for today. We'll be right back.
Found the sound. 98.9. Win FM.
We now bring you the headline news. The headline news is brought to you by Caribbean Alliance, KDP Enterprises, The Grange, and Caribbean.
When it comes to the important things in life, your health, your education, your choice of a life partner, and of course your insurance provider, only the best will do. Caribbean Alliance Insurance is the only insurance company in the Eastern Caribbean with an A excellent rating. We have a robust 3-tier reinsurance strategy that protects our policyholders from multiple catastrophes, even if they occur in quick succession. We spread our risks over 18 territories, ensuring minimal impact to individual territories when a disaster strikes. We provide an excellent claims experience. Claim settlement is usually between 24 to 48 hours. Our A excellent rating means that you are more secure with us. Contact us for motor, property, marine, public liability, employer's liability, and other policies. Dalil Walwyn, people you can trust. Local agent for Caribbean Alliance Insurance. Tomorrow secured.
Shipping your cargo shouldn't be a hassle. It can be as easy as a single call to Amerijet International, your worldwide cargo transportation solution. We provide all the services you need to ship your goods anywhere in the world, whether your shipment is fresh, frozen, large or small, alive or hazardous. You can count on Amerijet to deliver it safe and sound. Amerijet International, by land, sea or air, we get it there. For more information, visit us online at www.amerijet.com or call us at KDP Enterprises at 466-9595.
Did you know that the Grange Healthcare Facility is the first purpose-built, non-governmental healthcare organization on St. Kitts? It's situated at Otley's, 7 miles east of Basseterre in beautifully landscaped surroundings. The Grange has a team of highly trained professionals and provides care that's rated as being comparable with UK and North American standards. The Grange offers varied accommodations to suit your individual needs, and our all-inclusive packages make the cost of care per hour the most competitive on the island. Services include convalescent care for all ages, daycare facilities for older adults, rehabilitation services, and training and continuing education for healthcare providers. For more information, call 466-5525 or 465-8020. Fax 466-8221 or email thegrangehealth@gmail.com or visit our website at www.grangehealthcarefacility.com.
Maybe it's the way the brilliant gold liquid reflects our sunshine, or how the bright blue of its label mirrors the clear Caribbean skies overhead. Maybe it's the fresh, crisp taste of this beastly cold beer on a scorching hot day. Maybe it's even the way it brings us all together. But one thing is for sure, Carib is very much a part of who we are wherever we're from in the Caribbean. Carib. It's the way we play. Drink responsibly.
With the WINNFM Midday News, I am Kevon Brown. Our top stories. St. Kitts Nevis records 9 homicides in 4 months, most a result of gun violence. Kevin Grant still wanted by law enforcement. Antigua government has responded to the latest comments from the Antigua Workers Union relating to severance payments to LIAT workers. St. Lucia's National Utilities Regulatory Commission met with local stakeholders recently to further refine the island's energy transition strategy. Internationally, China's military has begun rehearsing the encirclement of Taiwan during 3 days of military drills. An Italian tourist was killed and 5 people were wounded in a car ramming in Tel Aviv that came hours after 2 Israeli sisters were killed in a shooting attack in the occupied West Bank, heightening Israeli-Palestinian tensions. Now the details. On Tuesday, April 4th, the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis recorded its 9th homicide in 4 months, 8 resulting from gun violence. The Federation is averaging 2 homicides a month based on the current trend. Based on the homicide cases, all except 1 gunshot case were young men under 35, with the youngest being 18. The other individual was a 51-year-old woman. The homicides in 2023 so far include Javon Grant, 26 of Madden's Estate, Nevis. He died on January 11th in Bath Village, Nevis. Dequan Maloney, 29 of McKnight, resided at Bird Rock on Friday, January 27th, 2023. On February 1st, 30-year-old Sylvester Crosley of McKnight but resided in Halfway Tree. On February 14th, 51-year-old Dahlia Hanley of Lime Kiln. March 25th, Jermaine Henry, 35, and Denzel Edwards, 34, both of Stapleton Village. Bernal White, alias BJ, 32, of Fort Thomas Road on March 27th. On April 4th, 18-year-old Zion Huggins of Soho Village was shot down in his yard. April 4th, Shankill Walters, 30-year-old of Stapleton Village, died from a stab wound. Investigations into the most recent homicides are still ongoing. On Friday, April 7th, the police shared with media that they had formally arrested and charged Skamal J. Dickinson for the murder of Shankill Walters, both of Stapleton, on Thursday, April 6th, 2023. Dickinson was taken before a District A magistrate and remanded to His Majesty's prison. Charges for some of the most recent of the 9 homicides are still outstanding. Kevin Grant is still wanted by the Criminal Investigations Department, District A. Law enforcement originally shared his wanted poster on March 30th. Kevin Grant, also known as Big Cheese from McKnight, is wanted in connection with a report of larceny. A warrant also exists for him for escaping lawful custody. Grant is 5'10", dark in complexion, and has dark hair. Anyone who sees someone matching the description of Grant is asked to contact the Criminal Investigations Department at 662-7062 or 465-2241, extension 4220, 4231, and 4338, or contact their closest police station. In regional news, Antigua government has responded to the latest comments from the Antigua Workers Union relating to severance payments to LIAT workers. ABS Antigua has that story.
The government has responded sharply to the latest comments from the Antigua and Barbuda Workers Union regarding severance payments for LIAT staffers. Information Minister Honorable Melford Nicholas says the law does not support the union's insistence on 100% severance payments from the government of Antigua and Barbuda. Cabinet recently announced that it's considering offering 32% severance to LIAT workers in line with the shareholding that the government of Antigua and Barbuda had in the airline. I asked Information Minister Honorable Melford Nicholas whether the Cabinet is still proceeding with that position.
The 32% position, the liability would be approximately, I think, $10 million US dollars. And to use the proverbial saying, if push comes to shove and we had to be held to a particular finite standard, that's where we'll be on the hook for $10 million US dollars. But we still believe that there's a way out.
He says that way out would include an understanding by the Antigua and Barbuda Workers Union of what would be the extent of the government's liability if there is a legal determination of the issue. In the meantime, though, the ABWU is pouring cold water on the 32% suggestion. Instead, it says it stands by its call for 100% severance settlement for the workers of LIAT 1974 Limited and insists this liability falls on the government of Antigua and Barbuda as a former shareholder and as the main party pursuing a reconstitution of LIAT. Minister Nicholas, however, argues this does not pass logical muster and the union must first answer pertinent questions.
I would like to flip that around, Mr. Emmanuel, and to ask whether or not you or any other media are prepared to put the Antigua Workers Union on the spot and to ask whether or not, in point of law, is there any legal obligation of the government to go along the route that they have been inviting the government to go. I would like to see the media in a spirit of fairness and to help the dialogue and to help the public to understand whether or not a corporate entity protected by the laws have any legal obligation beyond the position of any shareholder to be able to meet the obligations beyond which it is legally obligated to do.
Prime Minister Honorable Gaston Brown held discussions with sub-regional colleagues this week on the issue of regional transportation. Stakeholders will be waiting with bated breath on whether those talks made progress on trying to get other shareholder governments to provide funds in line with their shareholding in the carrier. In the meantime, Antigua and Barbuda is clear how this impasse can ultimately be resolved.
If state governments who were involved in this LIAT issue had been prepared to ante up the funds, all of the LIAT workers would have been satisfied because Barbados would have put forward their 51%, Antigua would have contributed its 32% or committed to do it, and that whole process in terms of, but the notion that LIAT was pretty much abandoned and left in the hands of the government of Antigua and Barbuda.
St. Lucia's National Utilities Regulatory Commission met with local stakeholders recently to further refine the island's energy transition strategy. DBS St. Lucia reports.
The government of St. Lucia continues to have a strong interest in making use of indigenous renewable energy sources such as wind power, biomass, solar thermal, photovoltaic, hydropower, and geothermal energy. On Thursday, April 6, the National Utilities Regulatory Commission, NERC, met with stakeholders in a bid to address various concerns that private renewable energy producers would have highlighted. Some of these concerns, according to Infrastructure Minister Stephenson King, include the aspects of net billing and net metering.
The net metering would be to meter what is being produced into the grid, okay? And the consumer would then either pay the difference or the utility refund. The net billing is one in which the producer, the power producer, let's assume it's a home or a commercial entity, would pay the bill as issued by LUSLEC and then get a refund at a later date. It's you know, the lines are very blurred, but it gives one an opportunity to be able to sell all and buy all, or the other one to be able to get the net between what is fed back into the system and what is fed to the consumer.
Minister King insists that these issues are of critical concern as they have a direct impact on the cost of doing business in St. Lucia. He says one must also consider the maintenance associated with the already established energy grid.
As you push the agenda of renewable energy to a greener environment, that whatever is left for the fossil fuel production, that it is sufficient that they can maintain the grid. Because if they're not able to maintain the grid, then it means you cannot distribute. The grid is owned not by the government, but it's owned by LUSLEC. And therefore, it's really a delicate balance we need to find to ensure that anyone investing in the sector is assured of a reasonable return on investment, whether it's in wind, solar, geothermal, you just name it. We need to have a balance that will grant them a reasonable return. We also need to ensure that that balance allows the fossil fuel producer to also be given an opportunity to get a return on the investment.
Chief Executive Officer for the NERC, Ms. Alison Jean, indicates that these consultations are necessary as the NERC is in the process of finalizing the draft document for amendments to St. Lucia's Electricity Act.
This consultation today is going to examine and get feedback from stakeholders on what is the optimal limit that a consumer should be allowed to generate for electricity using solar photovoltaic. Currently, we have for residential customers a limit of 5 kilowatts, while for commercial customers, we have 25 kilowatts. Specifically for the commercial customers, we've had feedback on a one-on-one basis that the 25 kilowatts is really inadequate. And so we've carried out some studies that would inform on higher limits of for generation of solar electricity using solar, but one that does not destabilize the grid. We're hoping that we will have frank discussions today from our stakeholders with a view to incorporating all of these comments, and so we will pass them on to the government of St. Lucia for possible incorporation into the new electricity legislation that should be enacted sometime this year.
Officials are hopeful that later this year, with feedback from stakeholders, efforts will be made to remedy various inefficiencies that currently exist in St. Lucia's Electricity Act. For the DBS News World, Jason Darius reporting.
We now bring you these international reports.
The Chinese military has begun 3 days of military exercises off the coast opposite Taiwan. Officials say that they're a serious warning against what China calls Taiwanese separatists in collusion with external forces. Taiwan says it's detected several Chinese planes and naval vessels in the area. Chinese ships, including this one, were spotted near Pingtang Island, China's nearest point to Taiwan, and their mobilizations began hours after Taiwan's president, Tsai Ing-wen, returned from a trip to the United States, where she angered China by meeting the House Speaker, Kevin McCarthy. Well, for more on this, I'm joined by Celia Hatton, the BBC's Asia Pacific regional editor. And Celia, this wasn't entirely unexpected, was it, this reaction? But still, talk us through the significance of it.
Well, no, we were expecting China to respond. They've said all along that they were going to respond in some way to Tsai Ing-wen's trip through the United States. She was transiting after traveling to South America. She traveled through California and met with the current U.S. House Speaker, Kevin McCarthy. So we knew that some pushback would follow. Beijing has always been unhappy when the leader of an island that it considers to be its own maintains quite high-level dialogue with the United States. However, Lucy, I've got to put this into context. I do think that today's response, China's announced 3 days of drills, are relatively measured compared to what we saw last August when Kevin McCarthy's predecessor, Nancy Pelosi, visited Taiwan. In contrast, today, we're seeing live fire drills. Yes, they're taking place relatively close, though, to mainland China's coast. We've seen some warplanes and ships cross the median line. That's the line that separates the Taiwan Strait, that narrow strip of water between the mainland and the island of Taiwan. However, most of those incursions have been relatively short. In fact, we're getting reports that many of the ships crossed the median line and then headed straight back towards the mainland. So we are seeing a bit of a measured response, and I think that's because Tsai Ing-wen traveled through the United States, relatively subdued meetings, in contrast to the visit by Nancy Pelosi we saw last August when she actually traveled to Taiwan for a meeting.
Right, that's interesting. I was just looking at some interviews with people in Taiwan, just ordinary folk reacting to this, and they seem quite phlegmatic about it, almost like we're quite used to this sort of thing now.
Yeah, we see that a lot in Taiwan, where people in Taiwan are sort of used to the rhetoric that goes on, the back and forth between Taipei and Beijing. They've kind of grown up to this with this. I think also, this is also in response to the fact that these drills aren't that unusual these days. People in Taiwan are getting relatively used to hearing about planes crossing the median line, ships crossing the median line. I think, though, one thing that will raise alarm bells today is China's state media's use of the word encirclement when describing these military drills. That is a word that really does cause alarm in Taiwan. The idea that the Chinese military could simply encircle the entire island, perhaps at one point cut off supplies being delivered to the island, that kind of thing. That's what really worries people in Taiwan when we really start to think about the potential for some kind of military invasion. The word encirclement is worrying, and that's what the Chinese state media says the Chinese military is practicing today.
An Italian tourist was killed and 5 people were wounded in a car ramming in Israel on Friday. A car ploughed into a group on a street near a popular bike and walking path on a Tel Aviv promenade. The driver was shot dead by a nearby police officer when he tried to pull a gun, police said. American tourist Spencer saw some of what happened.
We heard gunfire. We saw shots, and then we saw people sprinting across the street. And then we heard sirens, and we decided it was time to get out of here.
Yeah. An Israeli security source identified the assailant as an Arab citizen of Israel from the town of Kfar Qasim. The Magen David Adom ambulance service said the victims were all foreign tourists. Earlier on Friday, 2 Israeli sisters aged 20 and 16 with joint British nationality were killed and their mother wounded in a shooting attack on their car near the Jewish settlement of Hamra in the Jordan Valley. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu visited the site of the attack, saying, "Our enemies are putting us to the test again." The attacks, after a night of cross-border strikes in Gaza and Lebanon, added to heightened Israeli-Palestinian tensions following Israeli police raids in Jerusalem's Al-Aqsa Mosque earlier this week. The tensions threatened to spiral into a wider conflict overnight as Israel responded to a barrage of rockets by hitting targets linked to the Islamist group Hamas in Gaza and southern Lebanon. But the fighting entered a lull on Friday. However, the 2 attacks underlined how volatile the situation remains after successive nights of trouble. No claim of responsibility was made for either of Friday's attacks, but Hamas, the Islamist group that controls the blockaded Gaza Strip, praised them and linked them to the tensions around Al-Aqsa Mosque. Twice this week, Israeli police have raided the mosque, where hundreds of thousands of worshippers have been praying during the Muslim holy month of Ramadan, to dislodge groups they said had barricaded themselves with the aim of causing trouble. The site in Jerusalem's Old City, holy to both Muslims and Jews who know it as Temple Mount, has been a long-standing flashpoint.
They have become known as the Tennessee Three Democrats who loudly argued for gun control in the state. They faced expulsion from the overwhelmingly Republican legislature for allegedly breaking rules and decorum. 2 were kicked out, the 2 black lawmakers. Vice President Kamala Harris made a hurriedly arranged trip to the state to show support from the Biden White House for them and their arguments.
A democracy
says you don't silence the people. You do not stifle the people. You don't turn off their microphones when they are speaking about the importance of life and liberty.
The punishment, the two men say, was driven by racism.
It was a public and political lynching. It was an attempt to humiliate us, but what they did was really show for the world and humiliate themselves that this is not a democracy, that this is, a body that is so petty and so weak and so built on white fragility.
On March 30th, State Representatives Justin Jones and Justin Pearson rallied with gun control supporters inside the Tennessee House. But then the two took their protest onto the chamber floor, using a bullhorn to chant "No action, no peace." 1 week later, nearly all but one Republican legislator voted to expel the men, while a white woman legislator who'd stood with Jones and Pearson just held on to her seat. Democratic officials have called the expulsions shameful.
To me, it's a horrific indictment on the Tennessee GOP, and they ought to be ashamed of themselves. And the fact that they continue to keep their foot on the accelerator when they knew the world was watching really just shows what this Republican Party has sunk to. New lows.
Almost lost in the uproar, the reason why the two Democrats and hundreds of students, teachers and parents had been protesting a mass shooting at a private religious school on March 27th. 3 adults and 3 children were killed. Legislators say ultimately gun control needs to be the focus.
I'm asking folks who are mad to stay mad.
Both men could be back in the Tennessee House very soon. They could be appointed by their districts on an interim basis, and then they will lead the fight for gun control and to stop these kinds of expulsions from happening again. Alan Fisher, Al Jazeera.
Imran Khan, who's in Ramallah, with how the violence is affecting Palestinians and their daily lives.
Well, the near-nightly raids still continue across the occupied West Bank since the beginning of the year. Some 96 people have been killed, 93 of those here in the occupied West Bank. But it's the injuries now. There was another Israeli raid last night in Barkin near Jenin, where 2 Palestinians were injured. The actual number of injuries is astounding. It's 2,560 since the year began. It's April the 8th. And that really is something now that the Palestinians are concerned with, the trauma of those who have survived those Israeli raids, the types of injuries we're seeing from live bullets being used, live ammunition, and from people who were just caught in the crossfire. That's becoming increasingly more important for mental health, for medical health professionals here in the occupied West Bank, because that is a huge amount of people that have been injured. So that's really concerning to them. If you're an ordinary Palestinian and you're living near Jenin, Nablus, Hebron, places like this, when night falls, you don't really know what to expect. You think there may well be another Israeli raid, and oftentimes you're right about that. These raids, as I say, near nightly. So the atmosphere is incredibly tense, but you're also seeing Palestinians now wanting to fight back, cheering attacks like the one that took place in Tel Aviv out of sheer frustration about what's been going on here in the northern occupied West Bank since the beginning of the year.
Let's bring in Al Jazeera's senior political analyst Marwan Bashara. He's in London. Marwan, Prime Minister Netanyahu has just marked 100 days back in office. Given all that's happened in those 100 days, is he going to make it to 200 days as Prime Minister?
Yes, that's actually a very pertinent question. Clearly, Mr. Security, as he likes to be called, I think has turned out to be Mr. Insecurity. And I think this probably should be the name that's most befitting of the Prime Minister, who generally also boasts of being Mr. Prosperity and Mr. Stability, and the Prime Minister who was able to control the Palestinians by deterrence and attract the Arabs by economic and political means. It seems like everything now is floundering under his feet and that of the Israelis. So just take a quick look of what's happening and what could happen next. Already demonstrations in the streets threatening to continue the next 100 days. His cabinet is totally polarized. He cannot work with his defense minister, who he kind of fired. He cannot work with his justice minister because his justice minister doesn't like the fact he walked away from his judicial so-called reforms. His attorney general doesn't like him to interfere in the judicial reform because of he was indicted in corruption. The other two fascist ministers of security and finance continuously blackmail him. He's down in the polls. The economy is not doing well, and international crediting agencies are thinking of downgrading Israel's credit. His friends in the Arab world who normalize relations now do not want to talk to him. Those who would normalize relations have normalized relations with Iran instead of with Israel. And relationships with the most important ally, the United States, haven't been worse since Netanyahu took over, not even during the Obama years. So really, all in all, we have hundreds days of trouble, of insecurity, of instability that look like they're going to be another 100 days at least of them.
There are going to be more protests today, Marwan, at which a number of former, high-profile ministers and judiciary officials are going to speak, talking about the rift that's developed within Israeli society. Has the Prime Minister got anyone to blame but himself? Is he even capable of recognizing that it is he and his policies and this need to cling to power that's causing this division? Absolutely.
Look, clearly he has every vested interest to stay in power, because if he doesn't, his indictment will take him to jail, as it did to his predecessor, Ehud Olmert. And I think he needs those two fascist ministers badly. Without them, he cannot form a government, because those in opposition would not form a government with him, because he's a proven liar to them, one who betrayed them, stabbed them in the back. So all in all, he has to hang on to power, and hence he is continuously blackmailed by these two fascist ministers. And they are very dangerous ministers, because they live off instability and violence. They need instability and violence in order for their popularity to grow in the Israel streets. So we have this dynamic in Israel, Adrian, whereby you have vested interest for a number of officials, whereby instability continues to be the case in the next 100, the next 1,000 days. Well, opposite that, we have an elite in Israel, an economic elite, financial elite, high-tech elite, military elite, academic and journalistic elite that is quite strong in Israel. And all of it is Jewish, that does not want this judicial so-called reform, which probably call it judicial deformation in Israel. They don't like the way those totalitarian ministers are governing. They don't like the increased racism and instability. And hence, there is this strong presence in the street by those who are not at all peaceful, by the way. Some of those generals have countless blood, innocent blood on their hands, right? I mean, even like Benny Gantz and Ehud Barak and these infamous generals are in the streets demonstrating against Netanyahu. But we also have heads of universities in Israel who threaten to close down universities. So we have a whole range of elites in Israel that don't want to see this Israeli government continue on the same footing, and hence, apparently they are ready to go on and on. But on the other hand, as you said earlier, we have a situation in Palestine that is also getting out of hand. We're going to have more and more of those sorts of attacks that we've seen the past few days, regardless whether the one in Tel Aviv was or was not a real attack. But generally speaking, the security tension is continuing. And now we have it from Gaza, we have it from Lebanon, and we have, of course, more of the same deteriorations going on in Syria. So all in all, it's quite a mess in Israel, in occupied Palestine, and in the region.
Our senior political analyst...
And it is Netanyahu's responsibility.
Sorry. Our senior political analyst, Marwan Bishara there, live in London. Always good to talk to you, Marwan. Many thanks indeed.
You were listening to the Midday News on WINNFM 98.9. The headlines: St. Kitts Nevis records 9 homicides in 4 months, most a result of gun violence. Kevin Grant still wanted by law enforcement. Antigua government has responded to the latest comments from the Antigua Workers Union relating to severance payments to LIAT workers. St. Lucia's National Utilities Regulatory Commission met with local stakeholders recently to further refine the island's energy transition strategy. Internationally, China's military has begun rehearsing the encirclement of Taiwan during 3 days of military drills. An Italian tourist was killed and 5 people were wounded in a car ramming in Tel Aviv that came hours after 2 Israeli sisters were killed in a shooting attack in the occupied West Bank, heightening Israeli-Palestinian tensions. Thank you for listening.
That was the WINNFM Headline News. The Headline News was brought to you by Caribbean Alliance, KDP Enterprises, The Grange, and Carib Brewery.
With over a century of perfection behind the Mackeson name, a smooth blend with perfect balance and richness, it's no wonder Mackeson Triple Stout has a legacy of perfection. Enjoyed the world over. Introducing our new look with the same great taste. Mackeson. All hail the king. Please drink responsibly.
Did you know that the Grange Healthcare Facility is the first purpose-built, non-governmental healthcare organization on St. Kitts? It's situated at Otley's, 7 miles east of Basseterre in beautifully landscaped surroundings. The Grange has a team of highly trained professionals and provides care that's rated as being comparable with UK and North American standards. The Grange offers varied accommodations to suit your individual needs, and our all-inclusive packages make the cost of care per hour the most competitive on the island. Services include convalescent care for all ages, daycare facilities for older adults, rehabilitation services, and training and continuing education for healthcare providers. For more information, call 466-5525 or 465-8020. Fax 466-8221 or email thegrangehealth@gmail.com or visit our website at www.grangehealthcarefacility.com.
Shipping your cargo shouldn't be a hassle. It can be as easy as a single call to Amerijet International, your worldwide cargo transportation solution. We provide all the services you need to ship your goods anywhere in the world, whether your shipment is fresh, frozen, large or small, alive or hazardous. You can count on Amerijet to deliver it safe and sound. Amerijet International, by land, sea or air, we get it there. For more information, visit us online at www.amerijet.com or call us at KDP Enterprises at 466-9595.
NHC is helping you to pay less in 2023. Having difficulties keeping up to date with your mortgage? Make an appointment to speak with your account manager today and learn how you can pay less. Our refinancing program will give you the opportunity to pay as low as $300 a month. Call us 466-4701 or visit our office at East Park Range. Pay less. Worry less with NHC refinancing program that's designed with you in mind. Offer valid from February 1st to June 30th.
When it comes to the important things in life, your health, your education, your choice of a life partner, and of course your insurance provider, only the best will do. Caribbean Alliance Insurance is the only insurance company in the Eastern Caribbean with an A excellent rating. We have a robust 3-tier reinsurance strategy that protects our policyholders from multiple catastrophes, even if they occur in quick succession. We spread our risks over 18 territories, ensuring minimal impact to individual territories when a disaster strikes. We provide an excellent claims experience. Claim settlement is usually between 24 to 48 hours. Our A excellent rating means that you are more secure with us. Contact us for motor, property, marine, public liability, employer's liability, and other policies. Dalil Walwyn, people you can trust. Local agent for Caribbean Alliance Insurance. Tomorrow secured.
WINN is 98.9. 98.9 is WIN FM.
People make the world go round.
Maybe it's the way the brilliant gold liquid reflects our sunshine, or how the bright blue of its label mirrors the clear Caribbean skies overhead. Maybe it's the fresh, crisp taste of this beastly cold beer on a scorching hot day. Maybe it's even the way it brings us all together. But one thing is for sure, Carib is very much a part of who we are wherever we're from in the Caribbean. Carib, it's the way we play. Drink responsibly.
TDC for service, TDC for quality. TDC your company, TDC for service, TDC for quality. TDC your company. Together we succeed, building our strong community, pressing onward to our destiny. One love, one family. Together we succeed. Let the whole world see. Yes, this is 50.
People make the world go
Welcome back to Inside the News right here on WINNFM 98.9. I'm your host for today, Devon Cornelius. It is 12:40 here in our studios for this afternoon. The phone lines are open and we're taking your calls at 466-0989 sorry, or 662-0989. That's 466-0989 or 662-0989. For those of you who may have just joined the program, in the first hour we were on the topic of the Graduate Finance Project launched by the Development Bank of St. Kitts and Nevis and the government of St. Kitts and Nevis, where you can access up to $100,080 and at a 5% interest rate and up to 15 years repayment term. All right, welcome back to Inside the News right here on WinFM 98.9. I'm your host for today, April 8, 2023, Devon Cornelius. Thank you so much for joining the program. As I said in the first hour, we touched on the Graduate Finance Project. For the second hour, I want to look at the homicide situation, the crime and violence in St. Kitts and Nevis, where we have recorded 9 homicides in about 4 months and 3 charged so far. So the Federation on April 4th recorded its 9th homicide in 4 months, 8 resulting from gun violence. The Federation is averaging 2 homicides a month based on the current trend. Now, based on the homicide cases, all except one gunshot case were young men younger than 35, with the youngest being 18. The other individual was a 51-year-old woman. The homicides in 2023 so far include Javon Grant, who was 26 of Madden's Estate, Nevis. He died on January 11 in Bat Village, Nevis. Dequan Maloney, who was 29 of McKnight and resided at Bird Rock. He died on January 27. On February 1, 30-year-old Sylvester Crossley of McKnight. He resided in Halfway Tree. Then on February 14, 51-year-old Delia Hanley of Limekiln. Bernal White, alias BJ. He was 32 and he was a resident of Fort Thomas Road. He died on March 27th. On March 25th, Jermaine Henry, he was 35, and Denzel Edwards, 34, both of Stapleton Village. On April 4, we recorded another homicide. That was Zion Huggins of Soho Village. He was shot down in his yard, and he was 18 years old. Also on April 4th, Shanquil Walters, he was 30 years old, of Stapleton Village, and he died from a stab wound. Investigations into the most recent homicides are still ongoing. On April 7th, the police shared with the media that they had formally arrested and charged. Please forgive me, I'm having some difficulties with the pronunciation of this name, but Dickinson is the last name, for the murder of Shanquil Walters, both of Stapleton, on Thursday, April 6, 2023. Dickinson was taken before a District A magistrate and remanded to his magistrate's prison. Charges for some of the most recent of the 9 homicides are still outstanding. So I've shared with you the homicides that we have had thus far for 2023. The police held a press conference some time ago to respond to the surge in violence, gun violence in the country, and spoke of efforts that they are implementing to respond to the surge in criminal activity. So we have recorded 9 homicides in 4 months, and 3 have been charged so far. This is Inside the News right here on WinFM 98.9. Of course, with these homicides, the question is always, what is the cause? What is the cause of these homicides? What is the response from the police? What can we do as a community to assist the police in their investigation? What is the response? What are we going to do about it? These are the questions that oftentimes come whenever there is a homicide. And so that's it right there. 9 homicides in 4 months. 3 have been charged thus far. The police have been sharing with the media the status of, those who have been charged, they've shared that with us. And so we know for a fact that they have been charged and remanded to his majesty's prison. We'll head to the phone lines and we'll take some calls to get your view, your opinion on the recent surge in gun violence in the country. What do you think can be done to curb the gun violence in the country? Is the response from the police/government appropriate? What can we do as a community in response to the surge in criminal activity taking place? So our homicides from January 11th right down to April 4, 9 are dead. Let's head to the phone lines and we will take some calls at 466-0989 or 662-0989. Let's take this call. Caller, you are on the air. Good afternoon.
Greetings forwardly. We apologize for the abrupt ending a while ago. But we heard your answer and give thanks for the same. Before resuming, we want to touch on what you're talking about, the violence. We have said it, and we will continue to echo it. These bloodletting murders and violences is not in a vacuum. As long as we practice, take delight in polite violence, the bloody ones, they just there lurking, waiting to happen. We have to realize that. So, solution. We need to rid ourselves of polite violence because it is the path paver for bloody and bloodletting violence. These murders just happening back. We remember in the early 80s when we traveled to one of the bigger plantation Caribbean islands. And we surrounded with the whole heap of murders. We say, wait. We come from a place where, a little island where murder take place once every 5 years. And the person who do it all sorry and all them things then. Be a murder around me. But watch pan Sinkis, you know, and leave it. Watch pan Sinkis and leave it, you know. Because in that place, the polite violence is there also. The people just use them. People just murder without shedding blood. Yeah. So the bloodletting just polite. And that's what going on here. Be a polite violence. In the political area there, in the religious area, almost every walks of life. You see in this polite violence. Yeah. Let me come out for that. We want to resume. You answer me and we say thanks again. How much years now the CBI are gone? We in 2023 according to the Western Gregorian calendar. When it start? 19 when? Can you help me, my brother?
I think it's 1983. Yeah.
Wow.
1983 or 84. It's time to be corrected.
Okay, that's a long time. How much years now that? We didn't do the math. 84 and 16 and 16 and 23, that's what, 39?
Yes.
Okay. We used to do math in school. We couldn't do it on the pen and paper thing. All right. But 39 years old. Wait. We don't think it's time for us to all the millions what has been a mass. And the passports, the digits that we heard last on the passports is about what, 25,000-30,000, not so?
I am not sure.
We think we heard that. Okay. Some monkeys in the air, you try to. We continue, because monkey country there. So somewhere there, so 25, 30,000. That means it's like half of the population of the so-called population. We don't think it's time for us to steal, use monies. It's time that we have a economic plan towards coming out of that program and being economically independent by using our fertile 6832 and create agricultural industry like no other in our nearby region. I think this time that we do that with all the monies there, what we heard that has been accumulated and amassed from the CBI program, what we intend to do? Stay in it forever? And the other day we was hearing about some queries that certain people, until they bring in some kind of thing now where they say discipline, they call what? You cannot, our enemies have to be your enemies. And our friends, your friends. I mean, how long are we going to be in this kind of limbo position and be bossy slaves, be bossy mental slaves, knowing where we came from and knowing who we were from them times before we was transported as human cargo? We are not preparing the way. We are not properly preparing the way for future generations unborn. We are complaining about teenage pregnancy, complaining about that and complaining about that and complaining about gun this and gun. By the way, we don't make gun, you know. And other Caribbean countries have reached out to those who manufacture. We don't have no. Jamaica tried to make some gun one time. They used to call it bucky out of old bicycle parts. I think that done with it. These things are manufactured by them and those. Why we cannot see how necessary it is to collectively confront these people, these places what manufacture guns, and carry them to the Hague if they don't stop. Even though people use machete and knife and this and that, guns is a dangerous weapon. One Jamaica singer sing that. I think it's Eddie Fitzroy. Guns is a dangerous weapon. And they are around and about us in our midst enough, and we don't make them. We do not manufacture guns.
So the question is, where are these guns coming from and how are they getting into the country?
We know where they're coming from, you know. They're coming from the manufacturers. And the people who can get them after they are manufactured is people who have economic power or other kind of power, but mainly economic power. So, the pricelessness of life is not taken into consideration. Because it's all about money. Money run things. We can't see that. Our intelligence here do not allow us to see this. With all of the... Sure. Hey. Blessed love, my brother.
All right, caller, thank you for your contribution to this program. This is Inside the News for April 8, 2023. I'm Devon and Cornelius. The phone lines are open and we are welcoming your calls at 466-0989 or 662-0989. Let's head back to the phone lines and we'll be taking some more calls. A caller, you are on the air. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Devon. Good afternoon to your listeners. Greetings once more in Jesus' name. He who is the only Savior of his elect, his chosen sinners only, saving them from their sins and from hell, and he who is the second person of the Trinity, Jesus Christ, that is. Now, what I would like to say, it is very interesting and very good to hear Ms. Henry this morning say that buying stocks, bonds, and treasuries are risk, a.k.a. are also known as a gamble. You see, when I was telling her that, she was making an argument with that it isn't such. But now she said this morning, as it suits her, that buying stocks and bonds and treasuries, she said it are risk because people lose money on them. So come back to the same thing I was saying before. No, and if you say one form of gambling is wrong, then you have to say, if you're going to be consistent and logical, all forms of gambling are wrong, including buying stocks, bonds, and treasuries. If you're going to be consistent, logically. Secondly, you were talking this morning about government lending out money and that sort of stuff via Development Bank. Well,
no, I'm talking about the Graduate Finance Project.
Yes, the graduate thing. Yes, but with all due respect, such things goes against the Bible because the Bible have a way of dealing with all of these issues.
Okay, so what do you suggest the government do to assist people who are looking to further their education?
Well, the Bible way of doing things is one, for government to at least be continually lowering taxes, deregulating the economy, privatizing a lot of stuff they're doing, so that you would have a strong, robust economy where people will be having far more money in the pocket, saving more money. Also, the banking system is supposed to be deregulated into a proper free market system so that because a lot more people now will be saving a lot more money, banks would lend money easier to people who want to borrow money. And they'll be giving them a whole lot better deals and that sort of stuff, including for student loans and that sort of stuff. And in that way, it will not result in inflation or the cost of living for us and that sort of stuff. This is part of the Bible way of dealing with things. But the way we are doing things right now, which goes against the Bible, it causes inflation or the cost of living to increase and all that sort of stuff, which cause the standard of living to decrease, make life harder for us all, fewer businesses, that sort of stuff, because we are not doing things the Bible way. The same thing goes for crimes as well. The Bible places no emphasis or blame on the weapon used. As a matter of fact, like I said, the first murder, we were not even told what the weapon was used when Cain killed Abel, because the Bible places no blame or no culpability or emphasis on the weapon that is used. It's all on the person who commit the crime. And when we start to place any blame and so on the weapon, we are actually going against the Bible in doing that. And the Bible tells us how to deal with crimes, including how to deal with murder. We need to do things the Bible way. The problem is that we are going against the Bible. When I say we are talking about the government, the churches, and all of us as a society, we need to repent and turn to the Bible. And this, I want to say, to the end, this is the Easter season. It's about Christ's death, burial, and resurrection. Christ came to seek and to save sinners. And if we die without Christ, we will end up in hell for all eternity. He died to save his people from their sins. Okay, thank you.
All right, caller, thank you so much for your contribution to this program. You're listening to Inside the News right here on WINNFM 98.9. The phone lines are open and we're taking your calls at 466-0989 or 662-0989. Before we continue taking any calls, however, we'll take a break to give a shout out to our sponsors, and when we come back, we'll continue Inside the News right here on 98.9.
We're different. We're 98.9. 98.9 Win FM.
You ever hear Earthquake call and say, "Hello, Miss Lee, yes, it's me, Earthquake, I come in Tuesday around 10?
Maybe it's the way the brilliant gold liquid reflects our sunshine, or how the bright blue of its label mirrors the clear Caribbean skies overhead. Maybe it's the fresh, crisp taste of this beastly cold beer on a scorching hot day. Maybe it's even the way it brings us all together. But one thing is for sure, Carib is very much a part of who we are wherever we're from in the Caribbean. Carib. It's the way we play. Drink responsibly.
If you need protection, you need one who you can trust to secure your investment. You need one who'll do you just. TDC Insurance, you're the one that you can trust. TDC Insurance, you're always safe with us.
TDC Insurance is your go-to insurance company for all your insurance needs. We take pride in offering you the best solutions and ensuring our customers are fully satisfied. TDC Insurance, we take good care of you, guaranteeing you peace of mind.
You're always safe with us.
People make the world go
Let's head back to the phone lines and we'll take this call. Caller, good afternoon. You're on the air.
Oh, good afternoon again. Good afternoon, Gregory. Now, to the crime. When you're young, so I suppose you would have heard it. You would listen and hear. Our young people have been conditioned to kill. You know, like when you go in the Marines, they condition you. So you no longer see people, as objects. You see them. I mean, there were all of these lot of songs coming out of Jamaica saying it's now start the same thing. The young people fill up their mind with it.
But how you know
They
it's
don't
young?
even see killing.
But how you know it's young people?
How I know it's young people?
How you know it's young people? How you know that it's young people killing?
Oh, wait, in a while ago you say you call out the ages and stuff.
you just said, right?
I pay attention to
No,
you.
no. Hold on. You just said that our young people are conditioned to kill.
They're being conditioned, yes.
Hold on. And then you made reference to the type of music, right? So I'm asking you how you know that it's young people doing the killing. I listed the names of people who are dead, who have been killed. I didn't list the names of people who are doing the killing because I don't know. But I'm asking. So I'm asking you now. How do you know that are young people? That is young people doing the killing.
All right. Let me get personal, right? I live in Newtown, and I'm from the village. And not all, but in most cases, it is young people taking revenge, whatever is the reason. But I'm talking about the music, and I'm not guessing, you know. I have to call out to people and ask them, you know what you're listening to? They're going to kill you in the hospital bed. And if you're going for your grandmother, you don't listen to those kind of songs, huh?
I don't listen to them, but I hear them. But I don't listen to them.
Thank God. But you hear them, right?
Yes.
I mean, even our young people, our young singers, some of them singing the same set of murderer song. They are being conditioned, their mind conditioned. If they start of the person as a human being, they won't just walk up and shoot you in your head. You're going to shoot a mother with children in her head. I mean, it isn't even coming to the other islands. They're going for the grandmother, the auntie. They can't catch you, they take your mother. They're singing it. They're being conditioned so that they lost feeling. And while my good family talking about polite, is there really a correlation between polite violence and the murderous thing? Polite is a white crime, you know. It is detestable because it could take the life of some people too. But when you have young, intelligent people who have not even begun to live, going to take it upon themselves to kill each other, that's not our culture, you know. Like my good friend Johnny just said, that's not our culture. We have some criminals
No, you've mentioned the songs and those songs that promote violence as perhaps one of the factors. What else would you say?
But that's the main one. The other one is the desire for revenge.
Mm-hmm.
And let me tell you, revenge is not only by the young people themselves. A lot of these parents and relatives and friends demand that that one of the relatives, whether brother, sister, whoever, take revenge. This thing about forgiving gone to the door. This thing about reasoning gone to the door. Oh, when he killed my brother, so he ain't going. When you say he ain't going so, what you mean by he ain't going so? You training the children from preschool. Anybody hit you, hit them back. There's nothing about making a complaint or finding out, you as the parent finding out the reason why. We are training them and they are conditioning themselves. And if you listen to our politics, very violent, verbally. Some even threaten people. I mean, somebody told me one time, I deserve a bullet in my forehead. You understand? A bullet, you know. Other people have been injured. So we have become a violent nation. We're full of revenge. Now, when some of them, they realize they're wrong, they say when they reach prison. Now, come tell me, you're young. You're not aspiring to anything? If you really had some good aspiration, you'd walk away sometimes. Somebody watch you, you can kill them for it. Somebody mash you or put upon you. And when you pull out a knife and stab somebody, you're meant to kill them.
Mm-hmm. Well, if we're going to be practical and realistic here, I don't think the majority of murders that have taken place in the country have anything to do with somebody stomping you on the toe. I think there is much more to it.
All of them are not the same, you know, but
I
know.
Revenge. Yes. But what caused it in the first place? That's the thing. You have the revenge murders, but going back to the root cause.
Lack of love. If you love yourself, and because sometimes they're even related, if you love yourself, have you not thought of the repercussion? That's why it says stop before you make a decision. Stop and think. Stop and think. When you put the bullet in the gun and you're going on to the man, haven't you been thinking about, suppose somebody see me, suppose what is the outcome? Now to Brother Greg, you find an excuse for your addiction. The Bible says, he who is hasty to gain wealth will not be innocent. He who is hasty. Now somebody might buy a lottery ticket now and again. But if that is a part of your lifestyle, it is an addiction. People are finding themselves in there to gamble, they don't even know they're reaching. Addiction. I just see on the radio, they have bingo. $100 for a card. And who go in there? Poor people. They're addicted. I mean, $1,000. They don't know anything about probability. The chances of you winning is very slim. And yet you take up a thing and then you buy, I ain't give me 500. 500, you could buy 5 cards. It's an addiction. And as a Christian, you should not be addicted to anything that's not godly. So stop making excuses for gambling. All right, then.
All right, caller, thank you so much for your contribution to this program. You're listening to Inside the News right here on WIN FM 98.9. The phone lines are open and we are taking your calls at 466-0989 or at 662-0989. We are on the topic of the homicides taking place here in the country. Let's head back to the phone lines and we will take this call. Caller, you are on the air. Good afternoon.
Which is forwardly, thanks for taking our call. Indeed, there is a correlation, there is a connection betwixt polite violence and bloodletting, bloody violence. And don't give polite violence no color. It is white color, black color, pink color, all kind of colors. Because polite violence have no borders. What people do with their mind and their heart and their thoughts towards other people. Animals won't do it. Birds won't do it. I'm talking about that. The conditioning is what they are eating and drinking and whatever else they are taking in their bodies. It have effects on their minds. You don't just put anything in your God-created body. It's even the season of Lent. The animals will be glad if we go on a permanent diet. Yeah. Because we surely, a superb creation, we surely can survive healthily without killing in order to eat.
Okay, we seem to have lost that caller. Yeah, we've lost that caller. Call us back at 466-0989. Let's head back to the phone lines and we'll take this one. Caller, good afternoon. You're on the air.
Yes, Devon, good afternoon. Devon, I was just planning to listen today, but Mrs. Henry prompted me to call in, among others. Now, Mrs. Henry used a word that she says that we are conditioned. Our mind are conditioned, and she is so right. But let me touch something that we are missing, and maybe many of us in the Christian community have overlooked this. Devon, if you are familiar with the scriptures, the Old Testament says, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. You kill and you shall be killed. But the New Testament says, in the word that Mrs. Henry said, we are conditioned. That in the New Testament, the Jesus in the narrative of the writers says, you have heard in days of old, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. But I say, do good to those that hate you, love your enemy, and all of that. But let us look at this, Devon, and follow me on this. Because I maintain that we were a collective and killing was not a part of us because we are of love and we are of life. Life is eternal. But look at this, Devon. The Bible that we read all these texts and quotes from was put together in 325 AD by Constantine, who was not a Christian. So we are conditioned to be Christians in a narrative of a people who weren't even Christians. And look at them, Devon. When they tell us, thou shalt not kill, what have they done? When they told us in the scripture, thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not hate, thou shalt not covet. Devon, this is their history. So what are we going to do? Are we going to continue or are we... No, don't get me wrong, Devon. Let me stress that to take life is an abomination. It does not kill. So all of our people here in our space, all of our young people, if they're hearing my voice, if you have shed blood, if you have taken a life and you have not reconciled or repent, judgment going to come upon you in this life or in the afterlife. Because death is the beginning of life. It's a cycle, Devon. Death is not the end. As they told us to fear death. Devon, are you afraid to die?
I think just like many other people.
Death is the gateway to the divine temple. You're here in the physical and as you pass because we were spiritual before we came flesh. So the cycle has to complete. And in totality, we procreate, Devon. So you see, in as much as they have inflicted their genocide and atrocity on us, we are still here. And that is why we are the majority and they are the minority. Don't ask me how they are ruling this system. This is their world. So we now have to focus on the spiritual realm, because that war has already been won. When the wicked one was cast out, the wicked one cannot go back there. And as for the caller who is talking about Jesus and his, what's the word he normally put in front? His chosen sinners? Well, he is in his space. Because if Jesus come to choose his chosen sinners, Evan, there are many quotes and texts in the scriptures that we have to pontificate on, but we have to see the truth, because the truth is hidden in plain sight. So, the Old Testament again, Devon, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth, but they can continue to kill us and have us just where they want us. No, we are killing ourselves. The same way we doesn't even govern our own affairs, because our affairs are being governed by them, by certain security guards who they put in position to govern us. We are in a mess, Devon. We are in a mess. All African people globally, because our leaders on the continent and in the diaspora, they are so corrupt. Devon, I mentioned some weeks ago, in 2021, 6 African leaders lost their lives, including the Haitian president. They was assassinated, and, well, we know of Aegis Eber, he was on the battlefront, but it was orchestrated as well. And external forces was behind of those 6 presidents who was assassinated. We are silent and remain mute when all these things happening to our people.
All right.
Thank you for hearing me.
All right, Carter. Thank you so much for your contribution to this program. This is Inside the News right here on WINFM 98.9. Let's take this break to give a shout out to our sponsors, and when we come back, we will continue taking your calls. Let's take this break and we will be back. Stay tuned.
We're different. We're 98.9. 98.9. Win FM.
Maybe it's the way the brilliant gold liquid reflects our sunshine, or how the bright blue of its label mirrors the clear Caribbean skies overhead. Maybe it's the fresh, crisp taste of this beastly cold beer on a scorching hot day. Maybe it's even the way it brings us all together. But one thing is for sure, Carib is very much a part of who we are wherever we're from in the Caribbean. Carib, it's the way we play. Drink responsibly.
Breathe easy. With the holidays just over, and lots of fun spent on holiday supplies, activities and gifts, how are your finances? If your answer wasn't favorable, TDC Financial Services is here to help you breathe easy. Up to $40,000 unsecured to consolidate your loans and even get a little something in your hand. No need to worry. Visit our social media pages or call 465-6516 or 469-5430 to learn more on how you can breathe easy with TDC Financial Services Limited. Terms and conditions apply.
Please note that the TDC Financial Services Company Limited, St. Kitts branch, is now located on Central Street in Bastille, opposite the Norwich Holiness Church.
People make the world go
Welcome back to Inside the News right here on Win FM 98.9. We're going to have to bring the program to an early close. So we'll take one last call to end the program for this afternoon. Let's head to the phone lines and we'll take this call. Okay, we seem to have lost that one. Let's take this one. Caller, good afternoon. You are on the air.
Constantine didn't put the Bible together, so that's a lie on Constantine. He didn't put the Bible together. And Miss Henry referred to buy stocks, bonds, and treasuries as a risk, yes, as gambling. So everything you say about gambling also pertains to buying stocks, treasuries, and bonds, and that's what he's running from. Thank you.
All right, caller, thank you so much for your contribution to this program. This has been another edition of Inside the News right here on Win FM 98.9. For those of you who may have joined late, in the first hour we were on the topic of the Graduate Finance Project launched by the government of St. Kitts and Nevis and the Development Bank of St. Kitts and Nevis. And the second hour, the homicides here in St. Kitts and Nevis. 9 homicides for 2023 in about 4 months, and of that 9 homicides, 3 people have been charged already. This has been Inside the News for April 8, 2023. Until next time, you guys continue to stay safe. I've been your host for today, Devon Cornelius. Enjoy the rest of your Easter weekend. Your dumpling, your saltfish, your mackerel, your conky, your Johnny cake. Don't overdo it. Until next time, you guys stay safe and have a good one.